Welcome to Jen's Daily Dish. You are just like me, I bet. You have no idea what to do with your sourdough starter. Well, now every week I've been making these absolutely delicious caramelized onion biscuits from King Arthur Baking. They are so good, and I'm not even a huge biscuit fan, but these will change your mind. A tasket, a tisket, a caramelized onion biscuit that you can't get enough of. Let's get started. First things first, you're going to want a small to medium onion, which we are going to chop thinly. Warm your skillet up, and let's do this. Tablespoon butter, tablespoon brown sugar, the onion. Cover the pan with a lid. Tin foil will work fine too. For about 30 minutes. Every 5 minutes, come back and stir it around. They're going to be so nice and caramelized. Oh, wow. Look at that. So yummy. Put them in a bowl, cover them. Let them sit in the refrigerator for at least 3 hours. We want these babies super duper cold to make the rest of the biscuits. Into the refrigerator they go. Sourdough starter. Yes, I know. You have a love-hate relationship with it. I do too. But this recipe is a fantastic, delicious way to use your discard every week. They are just that good. What is a sourdough starter? Well, I got this little packet in the mail, and then I started to feed it every day with flour and water. And then it became this big globbiness that I now track with this rubber band. This replaces the yeast because they've been having such a good wild party in here. They can get things going with everything else that they go into. Fun fact, the oldest sourdough starter is 122 years old. Wow, I guess that means I could pass this down to my children. Won't they be thrilled? Maintaining your sourdough starter is a lot of work. It's like having a puppy that you only have to feed once a week and keep in your refrigerator. That doesn't sound right. Well, you get the point. It takes maintenance, but it's worth it in the end. The recipe calls for 1 cup of sourdough, unfed discard. So this is the stuff that I take out of the sourdough starter to get rid of and to feed it with new flour and water. Let's do it. You can see that it's bubbly, even though it's been in the refrigerator for a week. Now I'm going to feed it with a cup of flour and half a cup warm water. Stir it around, and then the sourdough starter will be fed. Half cup warm water. Look how it has started to bubble already. Let's mix it up. Get those cultures eating. Let's start the wild yeast party. At this point, I cover it. I let it sit out at room temperature for 2 hours for it to have a party. And then I'm gonna stick it in the refrigerator for another week. The recipe calls for 2 to 3 tablespoons of fresh chives. I don't have fresh chives. I do have dried chives though, as you see here, and I'm going to use some of those. I want you to feel free to use any herb you have in your kitchen, whether it be dried or fresh. These happen to be a mixture of fresh herbs that I have from my Arrow garden, which I love and we'll talk about in a future episode. So here I have some dill, and I have some fresh thyme, and I happen to have some fresh parsley, and I have some fresh basil, and I had like sad, measly 4 sprigs of chives. I'm gonna chop this all up and use it because I have it. And this recipe is so forgiving that it will be delicious regardless. So put in what you like. Gather it all together, roll it up, and let's chop. First things first, preheat your oven to 425 degrees. And don't forget to grease a cookie sheet or put parchment paper on it. Feel free to grease it with oil or with butter. Adding the fresh herbs to the dry chives. Let's combine the flour, the baking powder, and the salt with very, very cold, straight out of the refrigerator, unsalted butter. 1 cup all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon salt. Let's combine this a little bit. 1/2 cup butter. Work until an uneven crumble. Two to 3 tablespoons fresh chives, dried chives, whatever herb you want. Time to get out the secret weapon, the caramelized onions. Caramelized onions. Toss. Break up the caramelized onions if you need to. Mine are so cold and stuck together. Note, see the bubbles. This replaces the yeast. 1 cup sourdough starter, unfed, the discard. Mix until cohesive. Now that it's combined, we're gonna lightly flour the surface and fold it onto itself about 5 times, and then we begin cutting the biscuits. You want it to really feel like it's coming together, which it definitely does. So now we're gonna flatten it out to about 1 inch thick, and then we're gonna cut it to these lovely, delicious biscuits. Look at that, look how beautiful that looks. All those herbs and the caramelized onions throughout. I'm using a 2.5 inch cutter for this. But theoretically, you could use a different size. You just have to be careful with how it's cooking in the oven. If you use a smaller size, cook it for less. If you use a larger size, cook it for longer. Gather the remains together and start again. You'll be able to make anywhere from 7 to 9 biscuits, depending on how well you measure. Into the oven they go for 15 to 18 minutes until they turn golden. Oh, look at that. These smell so good. Serve warm with a little bit of butter if you want. But honestly, you don't need the butter. These are so good on their own. They are nice and golden, and you can see the layers in them. Let's just pull it open. Oh, look at that. Look how, ooh, look at that. Look how good that is. You can see the caramelized onions and the herbs throughout. Let's take a bite. Really so good. They're a little bit crisp on the outside and tender on the inside and savory. I hope I proved to you that if I can make biscuits, you can make them too. Making biscuits and keeping a sourdough starter fed is not so hard. With a little bit of time, you can make these incredible caramelized onion sourdough biscuits. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd also love to hear your comments. If there's a recipe you've been dying for me to try, let me know. A tasket, a tisket, a caramelized onion biscuit. What the hell? I love these caramelized onion biscuits so much, it just makes me think. Does it? What? Do I do it again? It is a fermented mixture that when you combine it with the flour and the water, it turns into, oops. And grease and it's gonna party like it's over, like it's 1999. No, that's terrible, that's bad. Let's not do that.